Well, hello, and today is another day, and it's about still doing the restoration work on the 57 Chevy. As most of you probably know, it takes a lot of time. It's not, just a couple of month project. It usually takes a couple of years, especially doing it to the extent that this car is being done. And Puss in Boots over here just joined the group, and yeah, here she is. She wants to be petted again. Yes. Pick her up. You can all see her. Yeah, she goes by a couple of different names, and but she's a good cat, feral cat. She trusts me. She likes me. Maybe mainly because I feed her. Most likely, cats are so independent. That's the way they are, I imagine. But nevertheless, I posted the final video today, which is Thursday, on the 2007 Dodge truck that I completed, and obviously the client has the truck back. And the reason why I'm moving aside, so you can see Power Play Garage, down there, YouTube, and it's all about, getting all those subscribers. As most of you know, I got thousands of views, which is really nice. I try to put out helpful views on things that I'm fixing, but not everything is based on just fixing the car, because I don't get every single day something different, coming in. But when it comes in, I show it, explain it, and usually it works out pretty well. So, but in the restoration work, you can't do a long video on it because it takes so long. But at least some of the paint work that I do have been showing, and hopefully people like it. And that's that. I don't have any sponsors, so it's not like anything that I show when it comes to the compounds that I use or any of the tools I use. I don't have any of that going on with, any of these companies donating, which would be nice, but it doesn't happen. So back to the 57 restoration. One of the final parts I was waiting for came in, and it was the second one that was sent. The first one was incorrect, and it was the steering box, the power steering box. So I'm going to show you what I was originally going to do, and then someone informed me on the product that they have to basically take the same concept and style that originally came with the car, and they added the power part of it to it. So I thought that was the better option. It would save me a lot of time, because I'd taken a 72 Chevy steering box and I was converting it to work into the 57 Chevy. And also I took a 1975 Cadillac Eldorado steering column and shortened it 5.5 inches, because I am going to use it in the car. I want a tilt wheel, and I wasn't going to spend $1,000 in a steering column. I just don't have it to do that, knowing how much further along I have to do on this car. But, just like any other project, it requires a lot of time and usually a lot of money. So I basically did a little dry run before I painted several parts, because I was also waiting for 2 inner tie rod ends, because changing back to the original, the new and second power steering box comes bolt-on direct, basically a plug and play, and no changes to be made, and it's made to go on that $1,000 steering column. I don't even know if you can actually use the original steering column, because the original steering column, the shaft, the center rod is all integrated to the actual steering box. It doesn't come apart like that. So in order to get it out, car's got to be either up pretty high, because it's a pretty long rod that actually needs to slide out of the cylinder that ends up inside the car. So you drop it down, you can pull it out, or you can lift the cab and take it off that way. But if you're changing the steering box, you're not going to lift the cab. So with that back in mind, I tried it out and I painted it last night. Spent a few hours, so I'm going to show you some of the parts because the inner tire iron end's going back to the original 57 setup. I had to order new ones. So they're hanging here because once I was done painting them, I brought them in here so that they would, dry better in here. And here's one of them. It's the same color as the rest of the steering parts that are underneath there. And there's the boot. Took that off, and I wrapped this with aluminum foil, taped it. And the same thing over here, I wrapped the tape on there so it really wouldn't interfere with the threads. And here is the second one, second inner one. So actually I'm going to take this and show you right there is the one I made, actually two of them. So they're side by side. This part here, because I was using the center link from the 72, which is up here, which I don't need anymore. Yeah, took that off, put the original one back in there, and I already had that painted. And I incorporated the centerpiece, because you can see these were from the 72. I cut them off, I put them on the lathe, and then I centered them, and I pieced the 57 ends that came off of here, and I put them on the 72 so everything would match. And now I'm back to the original, which I could have went and cut that and welded everything back, but it'd just be a waste of time. So I ordered two new ones, and I even made them the same length, and that's what was going to work underneath there. So now both inner tie rod ends are painted and ready to go together. And the other piece that I painted, this is the part of the shift linkage for the transmission. Yeah, I had to paint that. That was actually it was powder coated but marine coated. Many years ago in Texas I had that done. And then here is the pretty power steering box hanging there, waiting to go in there. So before I put that in, I'm going to put the left header assembly in there, because it was in there before, before I took the car apart. And once I have it mounted in there, I'm going to see if I can slide that steering box in there. It should work. If it doesn't, and then it may be because that one is a little bulkier, but I know that does fit there because I did try it yesterday. And if it doesn't fit, then I'm going to have to get me some different headers, huggers, shorties, and maybe a different, maybe something different. Maybe if they're not short ones, maybe they have to be huggers. They hug against the block, but with the swing coming out, so that might be a little easier to do the exhaust. That all depends on how this works out. So one of the other challenges that I discovered, once the steering box was in place, even though the splines pretty much line up and there's a rag joint that goes between them, there's not enough gap between to have that together. And not only that, with this linkage right here that is attached to the inner part of the steering column, this is the part that shifts the transmission, I'm going to have to make changes. And the first change is I'm going to have to cut it here at the first bend. And once I do that, I'm going to take it, put it on the vise, and then cut the second cut right here. And once at that point, I'm going to make a longer, basically a longer bracket to reach out, because this column needs to go back a little bit more. So I'm going to make some changes in this. Nothing major. It it will work to my benefit, and I might even change the angle on this part right here, so it's a little more comfortable and less stress, basically. Not that there's a lot of stress, but based on this linkage right here, I think that because of the way that it's made, this came from a company. I don't remember which one, but this was bought many years ago. So not remembering where I bought it doesn't really matter, but if I have to make some subtle changes, I can do that. And I'll do that to the steering column, being I have to cut it apart. I want to take the wire out of this, and this ends up going more focused. Hopefully you can see it better. I'm not really sure. This ends up going in here like that, and then that other end slips into another sleeve. So even if this end is the end that goes here, which really doesn't matter, either one, I'm pretty sure that it's this piece right here that will go into here, and it will go in there. It's got a rubber bushing in there, and this goes down to the transmission arm, linkage, whatever. So knowing that it would end up being at an angle like this, doesn't seem like it's going to be right based on what I remember. It would be more comfortable if this ended up more like this. So in order to do that, I'll have to change the angle of that flat bar right there where this will slide into it. So that configuration is a simple one, and that's going to be the objective today, is to see if the headers fit in here with the new steering box, putting in the new inner tie rod ends, getting them all put up, do an alignment in the front, the toe in and toe out, which is really simple. I done it to my Dodge, and pretty much it's kind of the same way that they would do it at an alignment shop, because it's a 57 Chevy. It's not the newer cars of today. So they do a basic front end alignment. They don't even try to align it with the back end, because I took my Lincoln to a place and that's all they did. They only did the front end, and I could have done that myself, saved myself $150, but nevertheless, I'm going to do my own alignment on the front end. And that is pretty simple. So the next thing I want to try carefully is putting the header in. I got a bungee cord right here holding up the drag link so it doesn't swing and hit the ground. Let this carefully go down. Yeah, these are hooker headers. They are a common one. They're a little dirty, dusty, but this is pretty much a trial run. And I don't remember if I got to slip it up from the bottom or bring it in from the top. Bring it in from the top. Here I got a brake line in the way. Alright, so I got to remove, I believe, 2 spark plugs. Number 1 and number 3, to teach somebody. If you're not sure where the number 1 cylinder is on any engine, that's a V8 or even a V6. The way to tell where the number one cylinder is that when it comes to the block and the heads, they have to be offset, obviously, because of the way the crankshaft is. So the head that is bolted the furthest to the front of the vehicle, that would be where the number one cylinder starts. And if you look at it from the side, you could tell one goes further than the other. So this left side is the side where the number one cylinder would be because it is the furthest one going forward from that side right there. So you got 1, when it comes to Chevy, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then obviously 2, 4, 6, and 8 is on the right side. So if you didn't know that, maybe I taught you something, and if you did, then I guess I didn't teach anything. And if anything, I just verified in your mind I am correct. So I got to get a socket so I can remove those two. And I'm probably going to have to remove the temperature sensor as well. Ooh, little corroded in there. Little corrosion. I'm glad I took it out. Get all that crud out. I know you probably can't see that, but it's in there. Something that'll get you bored, so I'll be right back. Alrighty, I'm back and about to trip over the tools, and it does go in there with the header on there. I am having a little difficulty getting the third bolt to line up exact, so I noticed that I left a nut on where the spline is down at the bottom where the pitman arm goes on. So I got to take that off. But in the meantime, I actually marked the header so that I'm going to put a little dent in it. Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. So that I don't have any issues putting the nut back on there. So in the meantime, I'm actually, I have to take the two. I loosened up the 2 extra spark plugs, so I'm taking them out, and then I started loosening up the one of the 2 header bolts that I put in there. Yep, so that this way I could slip this down. I'm going to have it go down instead of trying to take it back up, because I know that that's not going to happen. It's not going to come up this way with the steering box in there. But there is plenty of room for the header to go down and out. I did lift it up, jacked it up maybe 2.5 inches or so to give me a little more freedom and sliding that out. There is a lot of space, but I guess the more room the merrier. The header is on the floor. So I'm going to take it where I put the mark, put some tape on it, grab like a piece of wood because I don't want to like scratch or damage it in that way, or maybe I'll just get a clamp. I'm not really sure, but I just want to put a little crease in it. Give me a few. I'm going to take care of that header and then slip her back up in there, and once I have that done, then I'll chime back in. So stand by. Well, I'm back, and it's been a couple of hours, maybe even longer, maybe 3. Now, that's all really nice. Took, like I said, 3 hours to get all that arranged, cut, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to go put the header on the other side, but I am pretty excited the fact that I don't have to get different headers. They worked. So, terrific. And the reason being is because this is similar to the regular steering that came back in '57 Chevy. So for that reason is the reason why the header worked, because this was on there before with the original steering. So I'm going to move to the other side. Yeah, we don't want to leave them hanging out and lose them. And then I can put the temperature sensor in there. And I'll wipe it off first for the old frame. Oh, I've still got to put the sensor in. Uh, I thought I could, but I have to go up from the bottom, I guess. I don't want to beat anything up. So, I think I want to put the dipstick tube where it belongs. It's not bolted in. So, I'm going to get that in place. Then I'm going to put the header in, and I'll chime back in. So, stand by. Okay, I'm back, and I got this side completed. And I was telling you about the down tube, the dipstick tube for the transmission. Had to be mounted, the bracket usually on a normal 350 with the automatic transmission. The flange usually goes to the side of the transmission. Well, because it's in this car, there was no room for me to carefully get it back in there and do that. So I had to make a bracket Z-shape basically to still bolt off the transmission bolt, go forward down the side of the head, and then angle it out towards the right side of the car, and then put a nut and bolt in there and make that happen. So now it's nice in there, sturdy, and at the same time, the vacuum advance for the transmission needed to be bolted on there as well, but that got bolted to the backside of the head. So that has its own bracket. That worked out well. So everything's nice and snug as far as those lines. I got the inner tie rod end hooked up. I got my measurements going across front to back to be within 1/8 of an inch. Split the difference. It's a 1/16 out. So that's pretty darn good. That was a little tough. And everything works as far as that goes. Got the headers bolted in. And as you know, that side is complete. So my next little venture is going to be the steering column. I do want to be able to hook that up and make that work. But what I think I'm going to have to do first is put the under half of the dash in. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to put the light in the truck, I mean in the car, in the truck. And I'm going to take you off the stand and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so when I was doing the mock-up in this car, And if anybody's familiar with the 57 Chevy, you'll see that the lower half of the dash is missing. And that is spot welded in, throughout part of the upper part of the dash and then here down the side. So I set it up to where I drilled all them out and separated it so that I could either make it easier to put the HVAC system in to this car. And that HVAC actually is from a 2000 Dodge truck. That's right. The side that goes to the firewall is the same contour, follows the same body structure, and worked out very well. So instead of spending $2,200 for a system that I don't like from Vintage Air, it was a lot cheaper and easier for me to set this up and do it the way I did it, and that's that. So the the other half of the dash, which I made it to where I could bolt it back in, and any area that I would not be able to reach from behind with a bolt and a nut, I actually welded in the bolts on the backside, and as I did here on these sides here, and I did it on that side as well. So at the same time, honeycomb nuts are going to go on there and dress it up pretty nice. And the other half of the dash is right there, all ready to go in. It's a little dusty, dirty, but she's ready to go in, and even the glove box door and the hinge, the steering wheel is ready. A lot of parts are ready to go back in there. So in order for me to get the right adjustment for the steering column, which is out of the 75 Cadillac Eldorado, like I mentioned earlier, even though I feel it's pretty close to where it's going to be, it definitely has to come back a little. There's no choice. I have to bring this back a little bit. I'm probably also going to have to cut a good part of this sleeve right here so that when the instrument cluster goes in, that the part of that will be able to tuck in. If it can't, then I'll do something else to make it look really nice. But I'm not giving up on the steering column. I've done a lot of work to it, and I don't want to give up on it. So I think I'm going to have to do that, put the dash in, and get the instrument cluster, set that in there, and then figure out exactly where it's going to end up being to get it more official. And because it's just the steering column that I'm going to be working on, it's not a big deal. It's not like if I have to cut it again, or you already know that I got to make these cuts here on this lever, which is no big deal. That's easy enough. But this does have to go back enough to put a rag joint in. And I think I have a rag joint floating around I could show you. In Impala steering box. And I might even be able to use this one. But that's what the rag joint looks like. I'm going to see if I have another one where I think I have it. It's a little rough, but that's okay. I'm not using it. It's just to give an idea on what they look like. We call it a rag joint for a reason. It is raggy. So there's basically two pieces to this, and that's where it would end up going. So when I purchase it, which I will probably tomorrow, I'll know exactly how much room I need in the car, and I will remove that first. So let's close the door again. That is the scoop on all this. Yeah, I'm so glad all that works. Everything's hooked up nice and tight. This setup right here, the hydro boost for power brakes and the power steering part, and I will have to clean this up and I will be painting it. It's definitely not going in there looking like this. But that is the plan. I'm going to be using that. It is for Chevy. So I'll make it work. It'll be really nice. And I'll have power brakes and power steering. Might not have the updated version in the front end, but I didn't want that. I want to keep it as much of this as I can original. It saves a lot of money, and it still looks great, and it handles nice. This is not a daily driver. This is definitely the ultimate show car. Cruise once in a blue moon, I think. But first, I'll be trailering it to any event because I'm still undecided if I'll be able to take it to SEMA. That is my goal. I would like to have it there, but who knows? We'll see. You know, it's not cheap to do it. It's not cheap to get there. I would have to have a custom car hauler like those big companies that haul that stuff out to those places and get it shipped because I don't want to drive it. I don't want to pull a trailer that far. You know, we're going pretty much to the other side of the country here, and I'm not into it. I don't want to drive that far, pulling the trailer. I'd rather fly there, have the car there. I'd be waiting for it, and then when it was done, have it loaded up and have it shipped back. That's a lot easier. It's a lot quicker, and I would enjoy the journey much better. So I think for now I'm going to end this video on all these parts, considering what I got done. Everything that's in now, engine related, actually steering related, and when I start to do the dash and the steering column, that'll be another shot, another video of it. So I'll be Sunday this will go out because today's Thursday. So I'll have all day tomorrow and Saturday to get that part done, hopefully. At least mocked up enough to where it's comfortable and everything works. Hopefully. But I would all appreciate if you haven't subscribed, if you would, that'd be great. Give me a like, comment, and until then, try to get something done. Have yourself a great one.